Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards, and in today's video we're going to be focusing on defending the long ball to attack. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be focusing on a drill which is going to be tailored around defending a long ball to then attacking a 2v1 scenario. But before we get into it, let's have a look at how many players we've got this week and the equipment that we'll be using. Now, in terms of players this week, okay, we're going to have 16 outfield players plus 2 keepers. Now, you can adapt this for more players if you have them as well, and also less players by just taking players out of certain areas. And then if you don't have goalkeepers, you can just use small-sided goals, or if you have one goalkeeper, maybe try and get a coach or a volunteer to go in the other goal if you can. Now, in terms of the equipment for this week, we're going to be focusing on using balls, bibs, cones, and then if you don't have 2 goals, try and use poles to mark out an area for a goal. So, in terms of the setup for the first part of the session, okay, depending on the age group of the players as well, we're going to have between 30 and 35 yards of depth. Now, if you're working with younger players, and obviously they might be able to clip it that far, they can bring the pass in a little bit shorter before they clip it, okay? And then in terms of the width, we're going to do the same again in terms of 30 yards of width. Now, how it will work in terms of here, so you're going to have 4 players who are going to be doing the defending to start and 4 attackers from each team. So we've got 2 balls going at once, okay? So what's going to happen is the person who's got the ball will clip it, and then they will stay here, okay? Now, the person who they're clipping it to is looking to head the ball, okay, to their team. So they're looking to head the ball down into space for the 2 players to get onto the ball. Now, the player who heads the ball, okay, so there's the blue here, okay, and the red here, will then come into the middle to defend the 2v1. So, but at the same time, the players are trying to avoid knocking into each other. So they've got to think about their movement, obviously being aware of their surroundings. So obviously this player is going to look to close these 2 players down, and then once this player looks to drive forward, they might just be able to go 1v1, okay, and score by the time the defender gets out, or in terms of the space that they create, whereas these players here might get closed down quicker, and they look to combine with each other to then look to score. So we get 2 2v1s going, so every time a team scores, they can get a point. Every time a team maybe defends in terms of like stopping them from scoring, they can get a point as well. Now, what will then happen is, okay, the person who headed the ball will just go to the back of the line there, okay, and then the person who clipped the ball, so when we started clipping it this side, with this side, it'll then go from the other side now, okay? So whereas we had the blues clipping it from this side, the blues will then clip it from the other side, and so forth. The attackers will go back to the cues in here, okay, so there, and then we go the opposite way. So then this blue will clip it here, this player heads it down into there, this player heads it down, we see the blues go in, okay? And then with the same, there gets headed in, and the players look to win the ball, comes down into here, okay, we get our 2 players attacking, we get our 2 players defending. Now, what we're going to see in terms of the defenders is that when they're coming into these areas, we need to focus on how we're going to delay the opposition, okay? So focus on one player, so the ball carrier, can you close the ball carrier down, okay? And then think about your position in terms of where the other player is. So if the other players look to make that moving behind, okay, can you look to force that passing behind where the keeper can come out, or can you put it on an angle where the pass has got to go further down the line, which means this player's got to make more of a run across, whereas if we come out too much, that pass is sliding in behind, whereas we close the angle there, okay, and we say to them, okay, can you go down the line themselves, okay, deflect away from goal, and then you can look to defend that, okay? And then in terms of the attackers, what they're trying to do, okay, is isolate the defender, make those runs, okay, or stretch the pitch, okay, out wide to receive the ball, and then look to finish. Then after a set amount of time, you can even swap the players over, so the defenders and the attackers can swap over, or you can keep them in the same areas if you want to focus obviously on working with defenders and fullbacks and even defence midfielders doing the heading, and then your wingers and your strikers and some attack midfielders doing the attacking work. But again, it's clipped in long, okay, player looks to head the ball into the space for the two players to get on, and the person who's headed the ball will come in with both sides going at the same time. And if you wanted to, you could alternate it where one side goes and then the other side goes to start, and then look to get two going at the same time. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Now moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now moving into the first of our 2 small-sided games. Now this one is going to have a start point from the goalkeeper. In terms of the setup, okay, so in terms of the depth here, we're looking between 50 and 60 yards. Now the middle area here between 20 and 25, and everything remaining, you're looking between like 2 15-yard areas if you can. Now in terms of the width again, you can go between 40 and 50, so you're looking around about 20 yards in the middle here, and then anything else that you've got there either side, so it could be 10 yards either side or it can be a little bit more. Now, each team's going to have 7 players and the 2 floaters here. Now, when the keeper clips the ball, they can either clip it long, okay, into here, or they can clip it into the middle. Now, because we're doing heading, okay, we don't want to head the ball all the time, the team can also look to play out if they want to as well. So we can look to alternate it. But what the focus is that when the ball comes in long, we're looking for the other team to win the ball, okay? So defend the long ball and then secure it to go and attack. So use the floaters in attack to get some width, because then you can get players attacking them behind, attacking the box to then finish. The player will then start with the other side, okay? And then players start in the middle again. So focusing on these players in here, okay? When the ball's coming along, making sure we're getting round on the cover, okay? We're narrowing the pitch off. So then when the ball bounces in here, second balls, we're able to get on those second balls to secure the ball and then look to go and attack and score. Now, as soon as the ball's secured, players are free to move everywhere. We just want the players starting in these areas to begin. And then once that is finished, okay, once that first ball's won, players can move anywhere. So obviously the 2 defenders, if one player is going up to win this header here, we're looking for the other defender to come round on the cover, okay, with the midfielders in here, looking to drop to defend any second balls, any loose balls. And then we're looking for composure to secure it. So you can use your goalkeeper, can you use the wide players, and then what are we looking at from these 4 players in here? Can we get forward movements? Okay, players moving ahead of the ball, players moving in behind to try and stretch the defenders. So when the ball gets played in, we can get those third man runners, okay, to finish. So when we're defending these long balls, okay, the players have got to be brave to get up for them. Okay, we've got to sense that we need to get round the ball, look to defend the second balls, because if we win the first ball and then keep losing the second ball, the other team's securing it and going and attacking, okay? So making sure that when that ball goes up, okay, we're not standing watching it, okay? We're getting ourselves in a position, okay, to defend the second ball, because with the headers there, if a player's getting challenged, it's going to be difficult to put the ball exactly onto someone's feet with the header. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to the final part of this week's session. Okay, now moving into the final part of this week's session, we're now focusing on a small-sided game, which again is going to be focusing on defending the long ball to then attack. Now, in terms of this one, we're removing in terms of like players being locked in. Now we are focusing on winning that first ball, securing the ball, and then looking to attack. So, in terms of the depth and the width, okay, ideally you want to be working on half a pitch, using the full width, okay, and then using the depth that you can, okay? Now, if you do have less space, so which we've put out here, okay? So in this area here, we've gone for 50 yards, and then it's in terms of the width again, between 40 and 50 yards. That's fine to do so, but obviously when you're looking to attack, the good players are going to have to find the spaces to try and secure the ball to go and attack. Now, it'll start with either keeper as the start point. Again, because we're defending long balls quite often, heading the ball, the players can also play out as well. But the main focus is to be the long ball. Now, you want your team to set up with the back 4 and then midfielders in front. How you want to set up the second bank of 4 is fine. You could do midfield 3, midfield 4, however you want, or if you want to play back 5 with 3 in front of that, that's fine. But obviously to then go and attack, it'll be a little bit harder. So we're going to be set up with the Reds here. So obviously we've got 2 centre backs, our left back and right back. 3 midfielders in front, and as if we've got our forward. Now, the opposition team has got 2 strikers, okay, 2 midfielders there, and then the back 4. So when this ball goes long, okay, so let's say it's getting clipped in towards this area where the right centre-back is. When this player goes up for the ball, the back 4 has got to make sure that they're narrowed off in midfield, in front, okay, is keeping the gaps closed, so that when the ball drops into here, okay, they can get onto the second ball. Whereas if that long ball comes in, okay, and we're already thinking we've secured the ball, okay, there's bigger gaps in here, which means when the ball drops in, there's more chance of the opposition winning the ball. So what you've got to tell the players is, first thought, okay, when that ball goes up is, can we secure the ball? Okay, can we stop the opposition getting it? Okay, can we keep the gaps between each player and the units quite close? And then, once this ball gets secured, okay, so a player might receive it here, then can we look to be more expansive, to receive the ball in areas, to then go forward and look to score. Obviously, the team scores, the other team will then start by playing long. So we might see a team set up with a back 4, 2 midfielders in front, and then 2 players in front of that, as if they're playing, let's say, a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-2. And then the opposition team here will have their 4 players and the back 4 in there. So again, the focus on when that ball comes in long, can they look to win it? Now, the first header might not go where the players want to, so that's why the player's got to be close to react. So a player might go up here with the striker, it might get headed onto the back of the player here, which means it ricochets. So if this player was further away, okay, it's hard for them to get onto the ball. Whereas if they're on the cover, okay, it's just an easy nod down to the keeper, or they may have time to take a touch, play wide, and then we set up that counter-attack again to go forward, to get in behind, and then look to score. So in terms of the players, again, try and anticipate where that ball might go, making sure when the ball goes over your head, you're not standing watching it, okay, you're dropping with the ball, and then when the ball moves further forward, we're stepping as a team as well. If you wanted to, in certain areas, when you're using the half a pitch, you could even look to bring in offside zones when a team secures the ball. Obviously, the other team can look to maintain a high line. But again, if you're only using half a pitch, you might want to have it going one way. If you've only got one keeper, and in terms of one team might attack a smaller goal, one team might attack a bigger goal. So a team who's attacking the bigger goal can have an offside line, let's say in the 18-yard box. But again, just judge that based on the players that you've got and the equipment available. So again, making sure when that ball's coming in long, okay, the players are dropping in, so that when this ball gets won, we can look to secure it, not players high up the pitch and leaving gaps in between the lines, which means that players from the opposing team can get on the ball in between the lines, and then they obviously got a route to goal quite quickly. So defend first, attack second. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. Don't forget to head over to our website where you can sign up to view all of our exclusive content. And we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.